अभी ये लाइव स्टार्ट होगा।
Hello everyone, can somebody confirm whether I'm audible or not? Hello. Okay, cool. I'm audible and visible. So I'll be just starting in like just a minute. So in the meantime, can you just let me know in the comment section from which course or the college you are from, so that I can understand and explain things accordingly. Okay, so I'll just give you a brief about what exactly we'll be doing this session. So in this session, we will be focusing on the product improvement and the product matrices. So let's let's move to one, then we'll start. So this is the entire agenda. We will be just continuing with the how to approach cases. So in these cases, we have primarily different types of cases which has been asked. So we have previously covered the product pricing, and then we have also covered the RCA, root cause analysis, and then we have also covered the um, this product design in the previous sessions. And in this session, we will be covering the product improvement. So in these kind of interviews, and specifically if I talk about uh, of some companies like Misho. So Misho is one of the companies which hires from my campus, and the structure that they follow is firstly they have a SQL round. Secondly, they have a problem solving round where they mostly ask product strategy or RC. And then thirdly, there is a favorite product round. So in these favorite product round, they basically ask you what is your favorite product and how are you going to improve that product. So in product improvement is one of the most important thing which has been asked in the interviews. So in this entire session, we will be focusing on this product improvement, and then we will work on how on the product matrices. Like what are the different statistics or the figures, numbers which should be taken into consideration in order to identify to what extent we are working and whether we are at the correct page or not. So in these questions, we usually been asked such questions. So how do we actually approach these problems? So first of all, we try to understand about the situation and the product and what exactly they meant by the improvement. So in simple terms, it is called as the bus framework. So B stands for the business requirement, U stands for the user, and S is the solution. So in this very first thing, which is the bus, B, which is the business. So we try to understand. Let's say we are improving Amazon. Now, what we try to understand about what exactly they meant. We try to clarify. We firstly ask clarifying question. If they say we are improving Amazon, which business they actually wanted to, whether they are talking about the Amazon AWS, whether they are talking about the Amazon e-commerce business. So we need to understand the very first thing. Then the interviewer will give us a certain direction. Okay, we are talking about the Amazon, let's say web services, and then we try to understand about, okay, so we try to actually confirm, okay, so this is the product. So we have got the idea about the product. Okay, so we have an e-commerce website where users can buy and sell products. Then we need to understand what do they meant by the improvement, whether they are talking about the retention, the uh, engagement, or whether they wanted to onboard more users or the more sellers on their platform. So we try to understand what they actually meant by the improvement. For the sake, let's say they are talking about the retention. When we try to understand the set of uh, users, so who are the set of users using that specific product, and then we try to understand what are the consumer needs and identify their pain points. And according to the pain points, we work further with the. Okay, so once we have understand about the different sort of consumers and their pain points, then we try to prioritize things. Because as I had mentioned in the very first section of the product sense, like why do we need to prioritize things? So a business get multiple information from the business, from the consumer, from the different stakeholders. So it is very difficult for a PM to work on all the ideas. So we try to figure out the best solutions via prioritization. In the first session, I have explained about the prioritization. I mean the product sense, and in the second session, I have explained about the prioritization frameworks. So how do we exactly prioritize things? So this is the very initial things that we need to do. So very first thing is to do is the identifying the consumer. What are their pain points? And out of that pain points, which exactly pain points will be working upon. Then once we get the pain point, then we will use our brain and list out some solution. And then we will evaluate the trade-offs associated with the solutions that we will be recommending. And then the success matrices associated with it. And then we will summarize all our findings at the end. So let's solve a case right now. So as the cases, how will we improve Amazon? So the very first thing that we'll be doing is to understand what exactly they meant by um, which business they're referring to. So let's say the e-commerce business, and they are talking about the retention rate. So now we will try to understand about the different sort of consumers. So at this point of time, we will be mapping the identifying the multiple consumers. So there can be cases that a user is very confident that he want to buy this specific product. There can be second use case that the consumer is not sure about which product to buy. And thirdly, there can be scenario that the user is there just to search the product, but they is not looking forward to buy at this point of time. Now, at this point of time, let's say we'll identify, okay, so these are the users, and different set of user could have different pain points. So you can ask the interviewer at this stage, or maybe you can move on to the next stage, which is what exactly the problems that you have identified for the all the segments. but you can work on any of the projects. So you may ask at this point only, like what set of individual or the set of users we are looking forward to. So for this example, let's say we are talking about this segment, which is like the user is not sure what exactly they should buy. Okay. So now the pain point is very clear. Like the user is not sure what to buy. So for that reason, he spends a lot of time on YouTube or the different peers to understand whether what they should exactly buy. The There can be scenario that the user really likes the product, but is not sure uh, about whether he should buy or not, considering the reviews. There can be scenarios that a product looks really great, but it do not have the reviews, and there can be consumer critique whether he should go forward with that specific product or not. Now, since we have identified the multiple pain points, now we will use the different framework in order to understand which exact problem we should go forward with. So we will. I have explained this in my second session with the different framework. What exact prior feature or the consumer pain point we should go forward with. So in this case, we can use the Nano model in order to understand about the consumer point of view. Then, since we have understood about the problem, so we will be listing out the solutions. For example, in this case, we can add a feature to add friends, and then they can ask a friend who would have bought the same product and chat in the real time. And then we can also they can also do one thing. They can get experts on that platform who will be there to let them guide, or they can also add a blog for the specific product. Now we have list out some of the solutions. So based on your thought process, you can work on the solution. Since we have the solutions, now the second next step is to evaluate the trade-off. Now, based upon this, how are we going to understand further? So we'll be using the impact and the effort approach. Like what is the impact that a specific feature or the product will generate, and then we'll map the effort which will be uh, required in order to develop the same. Since we have it, now we will try to evaluate the trade-offs. So the very first thing that we did was allowing user to add friends. Now there can be a scenario that the friend that we are adding, they have not bought the product. Second case would be problem would be the expert one. So it can be an expensive approach. Then the third solutions that we listed out in the previous slide was they can talk to any buyer on chat. They can talk to the buyer of that product. Now, the all the solutions have different problems. The very first problem is that with the solution was to add friends. So the problem was there can be scenarios that the product that they are looking forward to buy, and the friend that they had added has not bought that product. The expert approach is again expensive, and then let's say if uh, they can talk to any of the buyers, so there can be biasness. Let's say any um product owner of the same product owner can just create a fake profile and then just manipulate and get the product set. So there can be multiple trade-offs which can be associated. Now, since we have evaluated the trade-off, we will be evaluating all these and using the impact and effort. So the very first thing that we mentioned was they can add friends. So it is a high impact thing, which is a with low effort. The second is high impact and high effort. Then the third is again high impact and low effect. Now we will take this into consideration, and then we will be recommending the solution in the same order. So this is the order that we will be following. And after that, we will talk about the success matrices, which is associated with each of the solutions. So the matrices could be the number of friends which has been added, number of friends which has been added by a user, or they can talk to a buyer to or the blog. So number similarly in case of blogs that we had mentioned. So I just forgot to mention this again. In case of blog, the task would be it is a tiring process for the user to read all those reviews and the blogs and come to a decision. Or again, there can be some misleading information by the um, seller itself. So there can be certain problem with that as well. Now, what would be the success matrix in all these cases? Like the number of people who are adding the friends, the experts being booked, then uh, they can talk number of buyers they have talked to, and in this case, the number of visitors on the blog. So we these are the success matrices that we identified, and then at the end we will summarize all our solutions. Okay, so in this case, we basically summarize each and everything that we had done. That okay, so this was the solution that we forward with, and based upon the entire discussion, this is something that we have came across, and this is the final recommendation from our end. So that's it about the product improvement. Now we will move forward with the product matrix. Meanwhile, I can take up doubts for the product improvement. By any chance, if you have any doubt, I can definitely take that up. So any product we can consider for the round three of interview. Yep. So they basically ask which is your favorite product, and then you move forward with the process. So yeah, you can take any favorite product. Any doubts in regards to whatsoever we have discussed so far? The first framework, the evaluation of trade-off, and the life case that we have just solved. I'll be waiting for 20 seconds for the doubts. Is user persona same as user needs? No, user persona is represents a set of user which is using a product. So a user persona can be represents a specific set of users. So let's say a user persona can be a college student who is representing the entire student community, college student community. The other persona could be the a corporate who is working at a company. So user persona means a set of users which is being used in order to represent a set of users. Whereas the user needs, so what exactly their needs are. So a specific persona could have different needs. So we try to understand that in the user needs. So this is the differences between. So a user needs is an extension of the user persona. Okay, I couldn't see any doubts. So I guess we can move forward. Okay, now we have the product matrix. So product matrix are the data points which are used to evaluate the effectiveness and the performance of a product. Now, whether a product is doing well, whether the business is doing well, or whether there is any scope of improvement in that product, or what are the different things that we can do additionally in order to improve that. So we all get to know about this from the product matrices. So it helps us with the performance evaluation to what extent we are working and to what extent we can improve. Then it helps us in the decision making. So we'll be discussing this in further. Then performance comparisons. Okay, so this is our churn rate. What is the churn rate of the other company? So these matrices helps us understand to what extent we are performing in comparison to our peers. Then it helps us with the goal tracking. Then it also helps us get relevant insights from the consumer end, and then we work according to the same. And then accountability. So every single time we have set multiple targets, so we try to understand whether it is aligning with our product goals or not. So product matrices is very helpful when we are doing all this sort of stuff. Okay. So in interviews, most of the cases, what happens, the product basically sometimes the product feature is being usually asked. Let's say a WhatsApp feature, WhatsApp status feature, or any other feature. So it basically helps us understand and evaluate the performance across the key stakeholders, and it is usually a user, a firm, and the ecosystem. Like to what extent these matrices are affecting or the users or the firm or the ecosystem. Now, in this, we have to consider multiple things like the North Star matrix, the success matrix, and finally the consumer funnel and the journey. So we will be discussing this in the upcoming slides. So additionally, there is one more thing that we had to discuss, which is the okay. So these matrices are broadly classified into the categories as the North Star matrix, L0 matrix, L1 matrix, and L2 matrix, and quadrille matrix, and also known as the D&D matrices. So we'll be discussing all that in the detail in the upcoming slides. Okay, so what is exactly North Star matrix? So a North Star matrix helps us understand whether the company product, whether it is aligning and being in the market as per the goals of the business is not. So it just helps us, okay, as I mentioned, it aligns with the entire organization and it helps us in making the long-term decisions. Now, for example, any North Star. Now, you might thought why it is called as a North Star matrix. Why not a South Star or any other matrix? So, as it says, that it guides the long-term decision making and it provides the direction to the organization about whether how the product is performing. So, it is being derived from the North Star, which is being used by the sailor. So whether they are into the correct direction or not. So similarly, we have the North Star matrix. So to what extent the company is able to generate the matrices, whether they want it to for the success. So this is the North Star matrix. So it helps us in the alignment and the clarity, and then it also helps us with the communication and the support in order to understand and helps the stakeholders. So whether they should go forward with us or not, or it gives the clarity about the performance of the company. Okay. So some of the characteristics as we have mentioned, so it is not a very important stuff. So the example could be of a good matrix would be the time which has been spent by a user in listening to the music for Spotify. Similarly, the matrices like daily active user or the registered users. So these are not uh, as effective because they do not reflect what exactly the consumer value the product or not. For example, there can be scenarios that there is a product with a great download, but the activities is almost null on that specific platform. So mostly, I guess there can be platforms like Google Never Leave. So these are certain platforms where it was very difficult for Google to generate the matrices because it was something where a huge audience was required in a specific vicinity. So considering the fact that we have multiple active users or the registered user, it doesn't mean that the matrices that we're considering is good. As I have explained with the example of Google, as Google Nearly is a platform where multiple people needs to be there in a specific vicinity. So this was the issue Google majorly failed, and they were unable to sustain in the long. Okay. Similarly, I have explained this with an example of, let's say, the Zomato. So we have the success matrices like the NPS or the monthly active users, but the main matrix is the monthly retention rate. So this is the core matrix. So I had worked on key, on a tear down project where we identified some of the problems and then we recommended some of the solutions. So we recommended a crate map thing that people can go to their Swiggy app and go to a crate map and they can basically order the product that they wanted to. So the success which can be calculated and the very core important thing which is can be given direction to the organization whether it is working or not. So was the monthly retention rate. To what extent they are using this again and again and again. And then the NPS was one of the success matrix as NPS we always were not aware. So what is the chances that the consumer will be recommending our product to the user is the NPS. So let's say we calculate this on a scale. Let's say the percentage of promoter mean. Let's say there is our chances that there is 90 to 100% chances that uh, the user will recommend our product. Then we have detractors, which is let's say the 50% to less. So the NPS score will be calculated by deducting the promoter and the detractors. So it will be let's say 90 minus 40, then we get a 90 minus 40. So we get a 50 as the net promoter score. Next we have the L0 matrices. So L0 matrices are the very basics matrices, but it gives us a very base level understanding about the product, well, to what extent it is performing, and this helps us in identifying the very basic problem which is associated with the product or the business. So, for example, the time which is being taken in order to load the website, or what is the first response time uh, in case of the customer services. So, L0 matrices are the very basic level matrices which helps us with the company's performance on a baseline level. Then we have the L1 matrix. So it is something which is more deep as compared to the L0 matrices, where it provides a deeper insights and it helps us with the trends and it also helps us what is actually working out with the product or not, or whether the company and what is not. For example, let's say there's a company and their monthly ad expenditure on Google ads is let's say 40,000 and they're able to generate uh, um, let's say 8% of engagement. 8% is their engagement. Similarly, they spend 50,000 on Instagram and they're able to get let's say 15% of engagement. And similarly, they are also on the Facebook ads and they are able to generate a 6% engagement. So since we have the multiple matrices, so it helps us with the which exact matrix is helping us and which is not. So in this case, as we can see that the spending money on Instagram is a better option than on Facebook ads or the Google ads. So basically, this L1 matrices helps us understand about the same. Similarly, the it helps us with the decision making and the impact can be uh, calculated and we can experiment with the same. Uh, so basically, if you read about one of the companies called Meesho, so Meesho every single time, every single day, they had like 40 experiments running on their platform. So if you read more about one of the podcasts by the CXO of Misho. So I recommend you to definitely read about that. You'll get to know more about it. Additionally, there is one more podcast that I recommend. So it was again a senior PM of Misho. So it again he talks about these things very clearly and very fluently. These are two some of the podcasts that I would recommend if you are working on the NPS or the other indexes. Then next we have the NPS. So I guess I just explained in the previous slide what exactly NPS is. Then the monthly active user and the conversion rate for e-commerce and the churn rate for the subscription-based models. Now, this is very important for the churn rate is very important for the subscription-based models businesses. Before I jump into that, I just wanted to explain what exactly churn rate is. So churn rate is the rate at which a consumer stop using our product or shift to a different product. So it is considered as a churn rate. Now, different companies have different churn rate considering the fact the Netflix has the lowest churn rate of 2%. So it is an L1 matrix which helps them improve their product. So and similarly, the churn rate of the other companies is on a higher end. So L1 matrix is something which is not just a surface level, but it goes a surface level data, which can be interpreted by the decision makers and make better decisions with the company. Then we have the L2 matrices. Now, L2 matrices are advanced matrices which are focused on the long-term growth of the company. So, for example, the customer lifetime value. So, the customer lifetime value is the expected revenue that they can generate from a specific customer. For example, so there can be two scenarios. Number one, there we have a product with no repetition. Secondly, we have a customer with uh, firstly we have a repetitive customer, then we have a not repetitive customer. Let's say if you are buying a course of 200 now, there's possibility that you'll buy only one course and then you'll not continue further. But let's say there is a product which it's a biscuit of 5 rupees. And so the probability that you will be buying biscuit, that specific biscuit again and again is on a higher end as compared to this. So there can be scenarios where you have the MRP on a lower end, the price of the product on a lower end, and you will be able to generate a higher customer lifetime value just because of the fact that the consumer will be buying that product again and again, and vice versa in this case. And then similarly, the churn rate prediction. So churn rate prediction would be what is the expectation that the future churn rate will be on the lower and a higher end. And then the revenue growth rate. So these all are estimation. So these are not 100% accurate, but based on the previous trends, we try to evaluate things and do a predictive analysis to plan things further. Next, we have the guardrail matrix. Now, since in the previous slides whatsoever I've mentioned, so these are some of the related to the success matrices. But what I actually meant by the guardrail matrices is, let's say we are introducing a product, and if we are able to generate certain matrices from that product, so these are also called as a D&D matrix, as a do not disturb. So whatsoever the new product or the features that we are developing, all those features of the product should not affect this specific matrix. So if I have to explain this with an example, so I can explain this with an example of let's say WhatsApp. Let's say WhatsApp introduced a new feature called status. Now the success matrix in this case would be the number of people who are putting that status, and the guardrail matrix would be people are also using that product for their messaging feature, the core feature that they had. And more on they are more on this specific part instead of the status. So we need to understand these matrices in such a way that although we are recommending a new product, we are introducing a new product, but that specific product should not affect the other matrices. So we try to also calculate these matrices. So the examples could be the employee turnover rate or the customer support response time. Now, in regards to so far, in case do any of you have any doubts? If in case you have any, I can take that up. I hope this all the matrices that I have mentioned is clear to you. I'll wait for like 20 seconds, so if you have any doubt, I can pick that up. Or you can just write out on the comment section in the chat box if everything seems clear to you. Okay. Great. Next, we have how to we actually approach these cases. So, the core skill which is been required when we solve this question, such questions, is we should understand about user empathy, then the products and होना चाहिए हमारे पास. Then we should have the business sense because we are not just looking at the product point of view, but we are also looking at the business point of view. Then prioritization and how effectively we are working with the data. So we need these skills when we are working on a product matrix question. Just let me get this out. Okay, so if I ask you about the WhatsApp status feature, okay, what are the different matrix that you will ask go forward to? If I ask about what is the important matrices when we are talking about the WhatsApp status feature, you can write it in the chat box. What do you think? What is the important matrices, the success matrices? I'm waiting for your responses. What do you think? What is the matrices? Important matrices. Right. I guess we can move forward. So the very first step is to understand about the feature and moreover understand about uh, the product they are or the feature they are talking about. So you can the very first step is to ask clarifying questions. So you should ask clarifying questions in order to understand, as they mentioned, the status feature. So what they actually meant by the status feature, that text was status that we put on the WhatsApp, or whether they are talking about the WhatsApp status which stays there for like 24 hours and it is being removed automatically. So first of all, we need to understand about what exact feature they are referring to. Secondly, once we understood, okay, this is the case, the second thing that we do is to understand about the feature goal. What was the core goal of developing that specific feature? So in this case, the feature was developed so that they can engage with the audience that they had. Secondly, there is one more the business point of view. So you, as I mentioned the very first sense, that you should have a business sense, user empathy, and so on. And so forth. There is business point of view as well that Snapchat had their this feature. So they were able to spend the users on WhatsApp on Snapchat used to spend more time on these platforms. Now the one of the core matrices in this could be the time spent on that platform for business point of view. Since the more the user on that platform is, the more potential to generate revenue from the platform or the product is. So first of all, we will try to understand what was the exact goal. So this feature was developed after Snapchat introduced this in there. So they just replicated the same on WhatsApp. So the objective was to again the competitive make the competition. Secondly, they wanted to engage the users on their platform. So this was the feature goals. Then the next thing that we do is to map the entire user journey, and then we break it down into the matrix. So what I meant by this user journey, so what are the, I had already explained this in my previous section. So we try to understand about the different touch points of a consumer with our product. Like the user signs up on the product, then it goes on to the different buttons or the explore the different sections of the product. Let's say in the case of WhatsApp, the user logs in, then it adds a photograph, the name, uh, then a Gmail ID for the backup, and then it can create a new chat and all. So we try to map the user journey, like how the user is interacting with the product from the beginning to the end. So what are the series of steps which is been followed by the user while they are using the product, and then we try to understand about the what is the behavior of that specific user is with the different phases of the cycle, like the awareness, the acquisition, the engagement, retention, and so on and so forth. And then, for example, these are some of the matrices that we had mentioned. For example, let's say we are making a feature aware, so the could be the total visits to the same. The L1 matrix could be the channel wise, then the last bit point. And then for the acquisition, they have like the new customer acquired, new customer conversion rate, channel wise conversion rate. So they're at the different stages. We will try to understand about the different matrices associated. So we have done the same like the activity base. Uh, these are the different touch points and the matrices associated with the same. So I will move forward. The churn rate. So I had like explained some of the terms. The cohort retention rate. Then the monetization phase would be the number of transactions that they are making, what is the average value, and what is the revenue that they are able to generate from a specific consumer. And then guardrail would be the abandoned cart rate. So we don't want to uh, disturb these matrices when we are developing or recommending on feature, or when we are trying to understand about the matrices of the product. Similarly with the same. So I'll try to give you more brief about with the example of WhatsApp. So let's try to understand about the same. Let's say we have understand the fact that these are the matrices, different matrices associated with the product at the different stages of the process. Now, once we have understood this, we will create a matrix tree and find out the leading and the lagging matrices. For example, as continuing a discussion on the uh, WhatsApp example, the WhatsApp status feature. So we will create a matrix tree. So as I had already mentioned, like the ad revenue that they will be generating, will be depending upon the time spent that the user spent on that specific application. And the very first matrix would be the daily active user on that platform. So daily active user is the one matrix. Now we will try to break down this entire matrix into multiple phases. Like the firstly, what is the number of people who are creating the status? So creation. Then the status consumer, how many people are actually consuming that status. This can be further break it down into number of users who are creating the creating the status, and then what is the number of status being generated. So let's say there are multiple users. Let's say um, 1 million users who are creating status, and then we try to understand the number of status being generated. So let's say every single consumer is generating two status per day. So the number of status being generated would be 2 million, and the number of users who are using this feature would be 1 million. Now this further can be break down into two pieces, like what is the number of people who are new and who are the repetitive users. So we try to create the entire metric tree. So in this metric tree, we try to understand, for example, the business goal is to make revenue. How we will be able to make revenue? It will depend upon the uh, the time that users spend on our application, and then how much time, what is the number of users who are spending time on our platform. Then, okay, so how many people are actually using our feature, whether by consuming that and whether the creating. And then we try to break it down further, like the number of users being using that specific segment and what is the number of status which has been generated. And even if they are generating, then what is the frequency of the new user or what is the frequency of the repetitive users. Similarly, with the consumption, we can break it down into three pieces, like they are viewing the status, then they are reacting to it since we have a like feature and the reply to the status as well. And then what is the probability that they are reposting or reporting to that specific status. So we try to understand about the same by creating an issue tree. And if you want to learn about how to create an issue tree, so you can refer to this specific website. So this is a great tool that you can refer to when you are learning about the uh, creation of the uh, issue tree. So this is being by the traffic cases. So I can share all this in the group itself. So they have explained this very well how to actually create a issue tree. Moving back to this. Okay. So this is the approach that we follow when we are trying to solve the um, product matrices question. And the last step is to find the do not disturb and the matrices, which is nothing but the last one. So we will try to work on the very last thing. So before I move forward, I wanted to ask you a few questions. So I'll explain this in the Google Doc instead. Okay. So first of all, let's say we have features and then we have the success matrices, and let's say we have the D and D. Okay. Now let's say we are working on a referral. Okay. We are developing a referral feature on for our product. Now, what do you think? What could be the success matrix of implementing this specific section? I need some of your time in the chat section. What do you think? What is the correct matrix, success matrix? Whether it is the number of users which is being onboarded by this specific feature, or let's say the number of uh, customer support uh, tickets on our website. What do you think? What is the success matrix in this case when we are developing a referral feature on our product? Yes, I guess there's been some delay in the chat. Um, there has been some latency when we screen. No doubt. All right. Okay, so I'm asking if we are developing a referral feature, then what could be the success matrix in this case? The number of new users that we will be able to onboard, or the customer acquisition cost? What do you think? What is the success matrix when we are trying to uh, calculate the success matrix for this specific feature? So, in a referral program, we basically induce our consumer to share the same to the other um, users so that they can sign up on our product. So, the number of new users that we can onboard would be the success metric. What could be the D&D, like the do not disturb? So, it should be, although we are developing this specific feature in order to get the new user, but it should not affect the customer acquisition cost. The CAC should not be affected. Similarly, let's say if we are working on the SEO of the product, so we will work on the SEO of the product so that our product will be on the top of the search engine, or let's say in the top 10, and then we will be able to generate the revenue from the same. Now, in this case, what could be the possible success matrix? So, in this case, could be the number of organic users on our website, but it should not affect the D&D. Could be the rating of our uh, product. Although they are able to explore us, but it should not negatively affect our product. And let's say we are developing a review and the rating feature on our for our platform. So in this case, could be it is associated with the trust. So NPS, what is, since let's say a product has a higher rating or similarly, so the the chances of recommending the product would be on a higher end, but it should not affect the conversion rates, negatively impact the conversion rate. So we basically try to understand the D&D matrices and at the end, and then we usually work on the solution further. So I hope it is clear to you all. Additionally, since we had discussed about this, okay, so this was the referral feature. So in case of the Amazon example that we have here, so we have the L0 as the user referral. Secondly, the L1 would be the what is the referral conversion rate. Let's say we send a referral link to the user, and what is the number of users who has clicked on that specific link and land onto the that specific page of the referral, and what is the chance that they had clicked on that install button and have installed that application, and then the L2 would be the viral coefficient, and then the guardrail would be the referral program ROI. So although we are able to uh, onboard new users, but the ROI that we are able to generate should be uh, such that it is not affecting the customer acquisition cost. So we again assess all the matrices using the different framework. So the most relevant would be the RISE framework in this case. So I have also explained this in my previous in session 2. So if you might have missed, so you can learn about all the prioritization frameworks from there. And at the end of the day, we just prioritize the matrix and then summarize all of our responses. So that's it for the today's session. So we discussed about the product improvement with the case study, and then product matrices. What is the North Star matrix, L1, L0, L2 matrices, the net promoter score, and North Star matrices. Uh, okay, any doubts? Okay, we have one doubt. Can you explain the what DND is? So DND is DND matrices or guardrail matrices are those matrices which we don't want to disturb. For instance, we are developing a feature for WhatsApp, let's say that status feature. So although we want people to use that feature, but we don't want to affect the other feature, let's say the text feature that the WhatsApp have. So the DND uh, are such matrices that we do not want to disturb at all by implementing a new feature or the product in our product. So it is the case. I hope it is clear. Just let me know if you have any follow-up question on this. I can definitely take that up. Oh, got it. Thanks. In case any of you have any doubts, I can take that up in the next few minutes. Hello. Okay. Okay, so I guess I do. You can just raise my thumbs up or maybe a note out in the chat box if you don't have any doubt. So, okay, you might just realize yes, I was explaining there that we do not want to affect the WhatsApp feature. So I just forgot to switch this. Okay, so I guess in case you don't have any doubts, so thank you so much for joining the session. In case you have any further doubt, you can definitely reach out to me. Apart from this, I will be sharing all my presentation in the group itself, and the today's activity will be shared in the group as well. I hope it added value to you. In case you have any further doubts or any follow-up questions, you can ask me. Else, we can definitely wrap this meeting. Thank you for joining. Thank you, sir.